All right, Janet, I've got the first question coming in. How are you doing, by the way?
I'm good. I'm good. It is 8:25 a.m. in the Philippines, and good thing I'm an early riser, so doing well.
Well, it's a great way to start your day with you and end my day at the same time because I'm at the
Mhm.
exact opposite schedule right now. So, listen, question number one coming in your presentation, uh, you mentioned the phrase "no product selling," but
Mhm.
I mean, come on, isn't that how we earn our living? So, so can you explain to me, like, what do you mean when you say no product selling?
Well, Greg, we are in the business of helping our clients journey through life stages. Isn't that right? Now, for them to fully understand our role in their lives, we have to show them the bigger picture. Um, it's just like selling a vacuum cleaner. If we are focused on just selling the vacuum cleaner, then the client will only have cleaning the floor in their minds. However, if we create a picture of a certain lifestyle that our clients can appreciate, healthy living, clean environment, happily family members, we can also introduce to them all the other appliances our company has in its shelves. As insurance and financial advisors, we have to aim for long-term relationships with our clients. In order for us to achieve that, we have to ensure them that we know who they are, their profile, their goals, their time frame, etc. And that's how we can help them create a life plan program. This program contains a few or even a lot of the product solutions we are actually selling. So at the onset, we give them the concept. We give them the bigger picture. And then eventually the product solution will come into place.
That makes great sense. So it's really more about building the relationship and helping them solve their issues. And then as a result of as you're working with them on their planning, then the products just kind of come into play,
Correct,
right?
correct.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right.
That's great advice for all of the people attending today's session. So, I got to admit, I'm a little bit jealous.
Hmm?
You had some phenomenal
Oh,
mentors along the way here. Joe Capaldi, Brian Hackett, Regina Bedoya,
yeah.
amongst just a few. Uh, Tell us, how did you come to meet them? And can you suggest a way that somebody like me could find a way to work with a great mentor like all those folks you've worked with?
Okay. So I I am not how I am today 15 years ago, 14 years ago. I was very quiet and very timid. And so you can imagine how nervous I was during my very first annual meeting in 2010. When I went back the following year, 2011, I realized that for me to grow, I have to be a bit aggressive with my approach. But I don't know these people. So one trick I did was during the annual meetings, we would have these huge badges, right? We wear them anywhere, even out in the street after the day's meetings. And they have our nicknames there. So whenever I see somebody with a long line of ribbons, I would call them by their first name. I don't know who they are. I mean, it would say executive committee. I don't really know what role these people play in the organization. But that's how I got to know people within the organization, and that's how I became very good friends with some of them. I call them out by their first name, and they'd be wondering, do I know her? And they they they'd see my name badge as well. They'd call me my first name. So that's how it all started. And then I realized that I have to find people who I not only seasoned and tenured people within the organization, but people who share the same values and principles that I do. And from there, I reached out to not only Joe, Brian, and Regina, but a lot of MDRT friends. And whenever I would be struggling in different aspects of my practice, reach out to these friends. So yeah, I guess for anybody who is as timid and shy as I was 14 years ago, this is one trick that you can do, especially now that we're doing in-person conventions already.
It's great to be back together again in 3D versus, in two dimensions, isn't it? It's just fantastic.
I know. I never knew that I'd miss traveling this much.
Well, I will tell you that the way you were able to gravitate towards the people that you did as mentors, you did a remarkable job finding some of the gold standard in MDRT. And I'll take a second for a quick plug, by the way, for the Academy. Mentorship is a huge part of MDRT's Academy. And you can, as a member of the MDRT Academy, access people like Janet did the hard way, but by using the Academy to do so. So, hey, let's move on. So let's go to the next question that's coming in is, it has to do with niche. I call it niche marketing. So, so I'm not sure. This is somebody asking. So I'm not sure which niche market to cultivate. How do I know which one is right for me?
Well, as I've mentioned in my presentation, you can create your own niche. So I guess the best way to start is to see which demographic you belong to. Age group, previous profession, if you're in this business full time already, hobbies, you can use whatever you already know and tap into the same community. So if you're a gym buff, you like working out, so maybe you can tap into that community, those who you see often, or maybe even a few times in the gym. Yeah, from there you can create your niche. Or maybe like me, as I've explained, my background, I grew up with business people. My parents are business people. My brother is already taking care of the succession planning for my parents' business. So I have all these background knowledge, how we speak, the culture that we have, what problems we are aiming to solve every time we do that 8 to 5 thing, right? So I use that to my advantage. So you can actually create your own, even if you're a stay-at-home parent. You can still do that. If you have a kid who goes to school, maybe you can be active with the school's PTA. So there are a lot of potential opportunities out there for you.
So kind of sounds to me like wherever your interests lie, wherever that takes you, that's kind of your natural market anyway, that maybe that's what you should be looking towards in trying to grow your business, is working with those that have similar commonalities.
That's
things
right.
Things that you might enjoy. So
That's
right. Great advice. So, hey, we'll move on to the next one. You had mentioned in your formal remarks, partnering with accountants, lawyers, and medical professionals. Do you have some suggestions on maybe what to look for there? How do we assemble a team of professionals that we can work with collaboratively? And is there anyone that we should avoid collaborating with?
Well, at the top of my qualification checklist is this question. Do we share the same values and principles in being of service to our clients? That is so important to me. I think from there, you can already sift through potential partners. And, that's easy to say that professionals who do not share your values and principles just cannot be on the same mindset with you when it comes to client services. And maybe, if you're more into in-person transaction and you're gearing away from doing it virtually, maybe you can find professionals within your location.
Yeah. Okay. I understand. That makes sense for sure. You had mentioned your ideal transaction. It also might have recurring revenues,
Mhm.
And maybe even an opportunity for repeat business, provisions for future leads, really important, joy,
Mm.
satisfaction.
Mm.
How do you, Janet, approach situations where there might be a trade-off? Like, for example, a lucrative transaction that brings no joy, or a satisfying transaction that doesn't generate as much revenue. How do you deal with that?
Well, personally, and I'm not giving this as an advice. Personally, I prefer to work on an account that will make me sleep well at night. If, for example, it is a lucrative transaction but will compromise my integrity and might eventually hurt other people, I will walk away. Recently, I had a talk with another fellow MDRT member about firing clients. I never realized
Yeah,
that that is possible.
it is totally possible, isn't it?
I know. So I was so happy to hear that. After a few months, I had this phone conversation with a client whom I still have a huge potential to do business with. The problem was over the phone. I know how stressed out he is. He was running a huge business, and the challenges of pandemic did not exclude anybody. So he was complaining to me about the program that I've set up. He and his wife shared a building, but they run different businesses. So he was, checking in on his wife, and he was questioning that the program that I've set up for his wife's business, to the point wherein he was questioning my integrity. He was like telling me that I could have done it this way. I could have done it that way. Why didn't I? Was it because I could have earned more if I did it this way? I'm like, this is not how I do business. And your wife, because she is a longtime friend of mine, she would know. But if you are questioning that part of my character,
Yeah.
then have your staff call me and get all the files from me, and you can look for another advisor to help you. So it was an actual experience, and it's a good thing that I realized that I can do this. It's not just a one-way thing that the client can fire us, but we as advisors can let go of a client relationship as well.
That's really powerful. Personally, I can share with you that I've done that, and I thought I never would back when I was newer in the industry. But
Mhm.
when a situation arose where it became necessary to have a necessary ending,
Yeah.
it was actually really empowering, liberating, and something I learned, which speaks to your integrity. It's when somebody's trying to pull you in a direction that you shouldn't be going in.
Mm.
As long as we tell the truth, we never ever have to remember what we said. So
Exactly.
yeah, so having somebody that's bringing us on a slippery slope, better to avoid that. Take the high road for sure. So
That's right.
great advice that you're
Mhm.
providing for the attendees here, which brings me to the next one. This next
Mhm.
question. This one I'm really interested to hear what your answer is going to be. It deals with working with friends.
Mm.
So, and I think whether you're a new advisor or you've been in business for 40 years, this is a topic. It is an issue. It's an area of concern. So you spoke about, doing some business with a longtime friend. Do you have an approach, let me say, do you approach friends differently than prospects that you don't have a prior relationship with? And in other words, are you concerned about alienating a friendship if you happen to do business with one of your friends?
Well, to answer the first question, if I approach friends differently than prospects that I don't have a prior relationship with, it's a yes and no thing. Um, it's yes, because I make sure that they understand that this is about business. So for example, if I'm in a social gathering or I'm having, just a meal with friends or coffee, maybe, I don't hijack the conversation. But I ask leading questions and I share real life stories, personal stories. You don't sell. You just do not sell during that conversation. It's just like exchanging notes. This is what I went through just recently. How about you? It's basically putting out a leverage. So, for example, my daughter, who's my eldest daughter, who's 26, recently suffered aneurysm. She's okay now. She was in and out of the hospital. She went through numerous CT scans, MRIs, a few angiograms, and the treatment that the doctor recommended was a gamma knife radiosurgery. And she's 26, and she was Googling everything. And so the images that she saw it terrified her. Aside from that, of course, me being the mom, I cannot show her that I'm worried and afraid also. You have to put up that strong front for your kids. Now, aside from that, the expenses that was incurred with the confinements and the treatments, it was huge. It was huge. So I had to tap into my savings. Now, because friends knew about this, and because we would be sharing conversations and we would be updating each other, I would share this story. And I would tell them it's a good thing that my daughter has healthcare. And so that covered about a third of the expenses. And I carry healthcare products as well. It's a good thing that I personally have savings that I can use without being worried about my retirement income in the future. I can tap into that part of my savings to spend on my daughter's treatment. So I share that story, and that will get the person I'm talking to thinking, especially if they have kids my daughter's age, or if they have younger kids, like, at 26, who suffers from aneurysm? And doctor did say it's a really special case. It doesn't really happen to young people. And that's how I do it. Tell stories and then ask leading questions. And then you can see their interest from there. If they're really interested, then I do another call to ask them if they would have an hour to spend talking to me about creating a life plan program for them and their family members. So that's how I do it with friends. With prospects who I really don't have a relationship with, it's easy. It's just business. And I do a lot of corporate accounts. So most of my prospects, business owners and board members and HR leaders, they think more logically than using their emotions. So that's an easy part. I am not worried about alienating friendship. A lot, and this is from when I started working in this business. A lot of my friends are still my friends, even though they don't do business, even though they said no to me. So there.
Well, first off, I'm very glad that your daughter is okay, for sure. And that's what she went through, and what you now have is, there's nothing more powerful than a personal story that you can share with those around you as to the significance of what you do for your living, and why it's just so vital to make sure that people are protected. So thanks for sharing that. So,
and may I add, Greg?
Please do. Yes.
It doesn't have to be a personal story. If you hear a story from another advisor, or hear a story from another client, you can use that and share that with your prospects. It doesn't have to be your own, especially with the young people. I mean, maybe they don't have that much experience yet to share with their prospect. Use somebody else's story, and their are a lot out there. Just go through the MDRT Academy website or go through the MDRT website. You'll get more than a handful.
That is absolutely fantastic advice. So I remember when I was newer, I didn't have my own story, and you probably didn't either.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I learned to utilize stories of those around me until unfortunately I had my own, just like you. And then it becomes part of our DNA.
Yes.
And it just makes us that more passionate about what we do. So if you don't have a story, no worries, don't fret. You can get a story, share it, and help yourself to help others. So Janet, we've got time for one last question.
Okay.
So I'm going to look at that one. I'll put it together here. So, and actually, when your presentation was going on, I was taking notes during this section. So thank you for letting me have some notes from you. When you ask for referrals, you use the phrase "just like you" when you explain to clients who you'd like to meet next. Have you ever run into a situation where the client doesn't quite understand what you mean and ends up referring someone who isn't really the right type of client for you? And if so, how do you handle that without hurting any feelings?
Yeah. The most recent, I can remember one. So she's a millennial, and she was referred to me by her office worker, who's also a client of mine, and she was very excited. The way I deal with these kinds of excitement, because sometimes it is so temporary, the energy, the passion to want to get started with their own financial program, it is so temporary, especially for very busy people. So I asked this millennial to come to my office, and so that we can discuss about how to start her plan. And she did. She was very prompt, and she would respond to a lot of my inquiries. And whenever I would send her text messages to do some follow-ups, she promptly responded as well. However, and this was we started the plan about this was just the year before the pandemic, so in 2019. But recently, she does not reply to my staff or my text messages. I would even reach out to her through Messenger, telling her that there's a question from my staff pending her answer. She doesn't pick up when I call, and I would call numerous times. So she had this. We started already with some products, and moving forward, she had to be consistent with putting in her investments and paying her premium. Unfortunately, she is not doing that on her own. That's why we have to keep reminding her that your due date is here. You have to put in your payment or your savings. But she's not responding. As long as I know and my staff knows that we did our best, we reached out to her numerous times. And it's not as if she couldn't pick up or she couldn't reply, because I see her post on social media. So that just means that she's maybe not ready to continue with this. Maybe she has to give up. And I cannot put more time in it, more than what I've already had, to just get her back on the horse, right? So I just gave up on it. So recently, it just happened once.
All we can do is the best we can do.
That's right. That's right. And if the client is unresponsive, what can you do?
Move on to the next one.
That's right.
And then someday, if they're ready, they'll come back.
That's right. Well,
Yeah.
I do hope she will, because she's still very young. And what I always instill in clients is that I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to help you start a habit. Because at the end of the day, all this the foundation of it is for you to create that habit of saving or setting aside money to pay your insurance.
For sure.
Mhm.
Hey, Janet, thanks so much for sharing with the MDRT Academy on this webinar. I know because I took notes that you're making a difference for those that will be seeing the webinar. So thank you so much for sharing today.
Well, thank you for having me. I was really very excited when I found out that you will be moderating this session.
And likewise, I was excited when I found out I was going to be able to moderate your talk. So thanks for being here. And also, thank you to those who joined the MDRT Academy webcast. We trust that the valuable insights provided today will help you go further, get there faster, and become finer at your craft. The presentation and the Q&A will be archived on the MDRT Academy app and website. And as a reminder, don't miss our next scheduled webcast on November 16th. We'll send you more details on this webcast shortly. That's it for now. Make it a great day.